Shalom, saints.
Shalom.
I want to welcome you back to another Shabbat study session here with the THWministry. My name is Raah. I'll be a reader and teacher today. We greet you in the name of the Heavenly Father, Elyon, because He is our Shaddai, our Yasha Abarah, our Shalom Khan. Saints, we're going to get into part 2 of this lesson entitled Remember That, or Remember. So we're going to get into part 2 of Remember, this series that we're on right now. So we welcome everybody that is joining us today on this Shabbat of the Most High on His calendar, according to the book of Enoch. Khan. So without further ado, we are going to get right into this Shabbat study lesson. Let's start with the definition. Remember, to bring to one's mind an awareness of someone or something that one has seen, known, or experienced in the past. Remember. It also goes on to say to become aware of something forgotten again. Bring back to one's consciousness to recall. So I want you to put that in your notes. The title of this lesson is to remember. And the call to the saints all across the world is to remember what has happened to us. And if you didn't know, to recall the things that happened to us as a people in our family so that it doesn't happen again, one, so that we can, two, learn from our mistakes, and that we can, three, do better so that we and our children may have a better future. Go to the book of Job, chapter 8. Book of Job, chapter 8. And we're going to start at verse 8 through 10. Job chapter 8, verses 8 through 10. And it reads, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. Shall not they teach thee, and tell thee, and utter words out of their heart?" So we were calling this to our forefathers and our parents, right? And we go back to many lessons, even last Shabbat. Many of us didn't grow up with our fathers. Many of us didn't grow up under the knee of our grandfathers. Many of us haven't been taught the things of old. We haven't been able to inquire about what we should do, how we should date, what's going on the job, learning trades, asking questions about scripture. Many of us haven't been able to search our fathers, but with the scriptures we have left, we've been able to search what our fathers profess to believe. And so as we search the scriptures, it reminds us that many things have happened in history that we can't forget. So as much as we search the scriptures, we also need to search so-called history as it's been told to us so that we can recall and remember how it went and how it affected our family members and friends. So as we go through this lesson, I want you to remember that. Remember the former things as I go through this lesson that I'm showing you, and how has it impacted our lives today. All right, we're about to get into part 2. We're going to start it out. Make sure you share this with your family members and friends. We appreciate everyone that has joined this lesson. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 9. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 16. And it reads, "For the leaders of this people cause them to err," or our leaders have caused us to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. So how did the people become destroyed, right? You tie this to Hosea. My people have become destroyed because of lack of knowledge. They have rejected my holy commandments. How has that happened to us as a people? Well, it happened because our leaders caused us to err by straying away from thus saith the Most High and doing their own thing, or taking advice from the very oppressor and colonizer, and watering down the word and watering down what we should know, so that we can't stand up and fight, so we don't know what is the truth. Our leaders have caused us to err. This is segueing into the first section of this lesson. I want y'all to pay attention very closely of what I disclose, and I'm going to show you right now, real time, current events, how our leader has caused us not to know our identity, to accept a fake identity, and by accepting this fake identity, we are destroyed, and we have no international, no national recognition, we have no might in our hands, and we have no recourse for reparations. How you say this happens, Raah? I'm going to show you one of the major reasons why you and your family and my family are destroyed, and we have grown up in poverty in rural and urban ghetto populations, sitting under pastors and leaders that have benefited from our tithe and offering, but they more so have benefited and received money by keeping us asleep to the truth. Now watch this. Disclaimer, for all you who are sensitive and don't know real history, I'm letting you know right now, many of you are going to be triggered because you don't know any better, and your K through 12 schooling has destroyed you. And your parents, just grasping and looking for anything positive, have given you a negative leader to follow. Case in point, this gentleman, Jesse Jackson. Do we really say rest in peace, rest his soul? In the last 30, 40 years, he's done more to destroy the indigenous people of America's than anybody else in the last 40, 50 years. I'm going to approve it. Yes, the Reverend. I should go back, edit this, and just escape out and just type in, for you who don't know, yes, he is a self-professed Reverend Jesse Jackson. And as for me and my family, we are giving no condolences for someone who has been paid and made millionaires. His family has literally become millionaires off the struggle and displacement of my family as well as others. The Reverend is not very reverend. Our leaders have caused us to error. Now, y'all know I've gone in many times on Malcolm, Brother Michael Luther King, right? Brother Michael King. But who is standing next to Michael King? I want you guys to look at his eyes. Anybody that know anything, when you look at somebody that looks like that, standing next to the man that's supposed to be the man, you know he has already been corrupted. I just want you to point blank look at the eyes of Reverend Jesse Jackson standing next to Reverend Michael Luther King. Look at the man's eyes. He already done sat with the devil and made the devil's deal. If you sitting up under your mentor, somebody that you look up to, somebody that's your guiding light, should not you be smiling? Should not you be happy? I'm next to the man. I'm standing next to Martin Luther King. Look at his eyes. He looked like a hater. He looked like whatever Martin Luther King is saying, it should be me. The attention he's getting, it should be me. He no different than Farrakhan sitting up under behind Malcolm X, and it's been our problem with our leaders, so-called leaders of the Black community, coming up from the 20s to now. If there's a leader and that leader has the light, that you guarantee there's a shucking jive Sambo next to him that wants his spot. Now watch, man. I'm going to show you. Let's keep going. Jesse Louis Jackson, whose real name is Burns. Listen to me, y'all. Jesse Jackson ain't even a Jackson. The Jackson name comes from his adopted father. His name is Jesse Louis Burns. Born in 1941, he was an American civil rights activist. That's why if anybody introduced themselves to me as an activist, I'm already like, I'm hands off. Because it's too easy for the alphabet people to put money in an activist's hands to activate nonsense. He a politician. I don't know what he politicked. I don't remember him ever being a senator, mayor, governor. I don't know what kind of politician he was. An ordained Baptist minister. Uh-oh. Y'all know who started the Baptist doctrine. A protege. Look at that. A protege of who? Let's go back. Up. Man, let me make this big for y'all. A protege. Let me see if let me do this other one right here. Yeah, we'll take this one. A protege. He is a protege. Look at the protege. Does the protege look happy to be a protege? The protege of Martin Luther King, aka Michael King, and James Bevel. During the civil rights movement, he became one of the most prominent civil rights leaders of the late 20th and 21st century. What did he do? We got rights? So what did he do besides get a paycheck and create an identity that destroyed his people? From 1991 to 97, he served as a shadow delegate. Listen, y'all, is this what a politician? They say he a civil rights activist. I say he didn't civil rights nothing. A politician, look, he ain't even a delegate. He a shadow delegate and a shadow senator for Washington, D.C. of the District of Columbia. That means he ain't even voted in as a senator or a congressman. This is something they made up to make people feel good. It's like you getting an honorary doctorate from a college and you ain't never finished high school. Just because you're a millionaire and you famous, they got you standing up, giving you these fake diplomas of honorary success, and you still can't do 2 times 2. This is what he got from his shadow delicacy. I mean, how do you go from a civil rights activist, protege of Martin Luther King, and a reverend to a Rainbow Push Coalition? Can anybody tell me what Rainbow Push Coalition did for anybody but the Jackson family? Can y'all tell me what the Rainbow Push Coalition did for anybody of melanated skin besides hold banquets and get money to do what? What businesses did they start? What scholarships did they give out? What grants? What does the Rainbow Push Coalition really do for us except be a funnel of money for the Jackson family? All right, it goes on to say Jackson began his activism in 1960s and founded the organization that later merged to form the Rainbow Push Coalition. Jackson was born Jesse Louis Burns. He was born on his birth certificate. Why are they changing their names? The only people that change their names is actors and FBI informants. Why is Michael King now Martin Luther the King? Why is Jesse Burns Jesse Jackson? Can y'all tell me? Because he was born in Greenville, South Carolina to Helen Burns. So the boy really didn't have a daddy, or the daddy he had didn't give him his name. An 18-year-old high school student and her 33-year-old married neighbor. So his mama slept with the neighbor, Noah Robinson, to have him. So he an illegitimate son. Then his mama remarries Mr. Jackson, and that's how he got the Jackson name. Some man she married made her legitimate and adopted Mr. Jesse Burns and gave him his name. Now, I want you to get to our lesson and what we're talking about here. This is very important. This next sentence, I want y'all to pay attention. His ancestry includes. This is for all you Hebrew Israelites and all you Kemetic and everybody pushing this "we from Africa." I want you to look at this protege standing behind Martin Luther King. I want you to look at this brother. His ancestry includes Cherokee. Now watch this. Enslaved African American. Now, how could Jesse Jackson be yet Cherokee and African American if we all African American and we not the Indians? I said a lot there. A lot of people gonna drop off. I already know it. So let me how does, if we all African American and the only option on our applications is African American black, why is Jesse Jackson Cherokee, enslaved African American, Irish plantation owner, and what the heck is a Confederate sheriff? Where'd that come from? This is approved by him. If he just passed on February the 17th, all these years, his family would have known that this is out here on social media about him. So him and his family and his sons and them claim Cherokee, African American, Irish plantation owner, and Confederate sheriff. Now y'all go deeper into the researching of this.
What happened? And then Raah said, we'll go in and take him on to the hospital. Jose, you get all the staff together. 3 of us saw it, Dr. after he was shot. 3 SLC executive staff members.
Now listen, I didn't preface this. This is Hosea Williams. This is an eyewitness to the assassination of Martin Luther King. He is about to tell us a story, the story of what happened when Michael King or Martin Luther King was shot in that Lorraine hotel. He's about to tell you how Jesse Jackson became a shadow delegate, a shadow this and a fake that and a push code. They're about to show you how the protege, upon the death of his mentor, becomes all this and all that. Listen very carefully, y'all.
What happened? And then Raah said, we'll go in and take him on to the hospital. Jose, you get all the staff together. 3 of us saw it, Dr. after he was shot. 3 SLC executive staff members. Andy, Abernathy, and Hosea Williams.
That's who saw
Those
King.
are the 3 that saw that body. Now listen to that. So I got in the yard and I was about to lose my cool because I was thinking if I could take some molecules out there and make me some guns and kill me some white folks. And one man said, now be cool. You're doing the same thing you're promising you'll never do. And I started crying, and then I heard Jesse Jackson say,
who?
He told me, Jesse, take our people on to the mountaintop.
Jesse done got a revelation.
And that didn't bother me, even though I know Jesse got nowhere near him. And then Jesse said, I held his head in my hand while he died.
I held his hand
and
when
that
he died.
didn't get to me. And then Jesse said, look at my shirt. And I looked around, sure enough, and Jesse Jackson's shirt was drenched in blood.
What?
And I realized the only way Jesse could have gotten that blood was stoop down on that floor at the Lorraine Motel and rake that blood off that floor and put that blood on him. And I went crazy. I really tried to kill Jesse. They grabbed us and all that, but that hurt me so bad. The other thing was, when Abernathy came back, says, no need of prayer, no need of cry, no need of nothing. He is gone. It's over with. He's gone to glory. And we called the meeting, the staff meeting, and Jesse claimed to have been ill. And Abernathy told him, Jesse, go ahead to the room and relax.
Jesse's sick and need to go to his room.
Jesse had to run like hell that room into that airport.
He went to the airport?
He got out of Memphis and Chicago. All us feeling, everybody was still in the motel. Cut the televisions on the next morning. That was Jesse Jackson in Chicago with that same bloody shirt on.
What'd he say?
Telling that same lie. I've never respected Jesse since that moment.
This dude, upon the assassination of his mentor, reached down in his blood and wiped it on his shirt and said, Martin told me to take the people to the mountaintop. I held his hand as he gave up his breath. Y'all know that Martin Luther King did not die at the hotel. It's already, the papers have been released by the FBI that he died in the hospital. So how in the world is Jesse Jackson saying I held his hand as he gave up his ghost? And he told me, Jesse, take the people to the mountaintop. Oh, I'm feeling sick. I need to go lay down in my room. The boy went in his room, packed his bag, and can anybody tell me how you could get to Memphis and Chicago and have a press conference in one night? Memphis to Chicago is a good 9 hours. So you think he got in a car and drove to Chicago, or did somebody fly him to Chicago? Okay, just a point I wanted to make on the way. So this is how he became all this and all that for the black people. And guess what? After he becomes the man that's going to take his people to the mountaintop, next thing you know, he running for president. Against who? Big Daddy Bush, George Bush Sr. In 2002 interview, Jesse Jackson said there was a new America and the world was abandoning the Jeffersonian democracy that coexisted with the slavery in favor of King democracy. So he was still pumping that he was King's protege his whole life. Named for his former mentor who fundamentally changed democracy. Dr. King changed democracy, but Jesse Jackson received the benefits of it. In November, African Americans Against Exploitation, listen, which included Jesse Lee Peterson as a plaintiff, filed suit against Jackson, alleging that he intentionally misrepresented himself as an official of the African American race. Wait a minute, Jesse Lee Peterson. How could he present himself as an official? How could he be misrepresenting himself if he created the term? And if you don't know Jesse Lee Peterson, just go online and see all the people Jesse Lee Peterson get to interview. This answered to me why Jesse Lee Peterson was so important. Because somebody is paying him to interview people and try to discredit them on whatever stance they are. So I want you to just go look up Jesse Lee Peterson and look at all the people that he interviewed and that walk off from his show because he digging into them and calling them everything but a child of God. But Jesse Lee Peterson is also supposed to be a reverend. So Jackson responded that it was a nuisance lawsuit with no basis in law or fact. So Jesse Lee Peterson and this group, African Americans Against Exploitation, it's crazy that you would create a group called African Americans Against Exploitation when Jesse Jackson is the one who coined the phrase or started the phrase African American. And now look at him. Look how he dressed. He dressed like a king. Now, I don't know if the Masons or Omega Psi Phi or who put him in this, but who is he supposed to be for African Americans? Mind you, he Cherokee, African American, Irish, and Confederate sheriff. I didn't even know that was a race. But if you just study this picture, what kind of bird is that? What is that bird eating? What kind of staff is that? And who the heck is scary-eyed baby boy Jesse Jackson, protege to Martin Luther King? Who is he to be putting a crown on his head in 2022? What did he do for his Cherokee people? Because African Americans or the indigenous people here in America don't even know they Cherokee. Cherokees don't even look like him. If anyone could convince Black Americans, okay, I thought now there's Black Americans, to change their name. Wait a minute. If anyone could convince Black Americans, see, at least Black don't send you to Africa, but Black just make you a color. So the colored Americans change their name. What does that mean, change their name? Jesse Jackson could. After all, he became an important political power. Mind you, he only ran for president, but he never ran for senator, congressman, governor, alderman. He had no political experience except a pseudo activist, protege, self-proclaimed, I forgot the term when you take over for the person before you, but yeah. He self-proclaimed to take the movement forward. That ain't really politics, but he became an important political power broker in 1988 after seeking to become the Democratic Party's presidential candidate. And though he did not win the nomination, he ran a very good race and won more than 7 million votes. This led to the New York Times to describe 1988 as the year of Jackson. He got 7 million votes and he still wasn't the Democratic nominee to run for presidency. By changing the name from Black to African, Jackson hoped to alter the way Black people thought of themselves and Africa, and Africa, and perhaps ignite too a new mass movement like civil rights in the 1950s and 60s. Wait a minute. So in the 50s and 60s, everybody's saying they Black and they proud. So he decides in 1980 to go from Black to African American and start the same kind of African American movement in the 50s and 60s, which he then was being sued later by Jesse Lee Peterson and the exploitation group. But Jesse Jackson is the one at that level. So they used his influence to change the name and identity of the people to deepen the confusion and push people further away. This is what our leaders do. Now, mind you, you ain't heard nothing about his preaching and his congregation and his sermons as a reverend. Never. It was the activist Ramona Elyon, president of the National Urban Coalition, who how does somebody persuade somebody that's dressed with a crown and a scepter? Oh, you're a pseudo leader. You pumped up to be somebody. So this Ramona Elyon persuaded Jesse Jackson to press for African American name change. Calling ourselves African American is the first step to cultural offense, said Elyon. Change here can change the world. This woman. Now I'm asking you a question. This is an indigenous woman of America of inheritance. Her mother was an important somebody in African history. If you look up her mother, this woman is supposed to be an educator. And see, there go that word activist. So anytime you have activists, it usually be the so-called smartest people from Howard, or they got some kind of major school behind them, which makes them look like they're supposed to be an important person. But they start doing this stupid stuff, which they don't just make it up, right? Like she persuades Jesse Jackson saying this can change the world. So that's why Jesse Jackson saying there's going to be a new America, because she's saying if all the people just stop saying Black American and start saying African American, it will make us feel some kind of important, tying ourselves to a continent our forefathers never been in. Okay. So then, out of all that, my boy Smokey Robinson says he is not an African American, nor is he particularly interested in establishing closer ties to Africa. In his poem, he warned Black Americans to be weary of yearning for Africa. Robinson says the name African American rightly belongs to and should only be used by immigrants who have come to the United States over the last 20 and 30 years from places like Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Zaire, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Nigeria, Ghana, all of those places. Them people have it reserved. They're from Africa. Now they want citizenship in America, African American. But our people are from America. Our people are here before that term existed, before Black America existed, before color existed. Our people were here. Listen to Smokey himself.
I love being Black. I love being called Black. I love being an American. I love being a Black American. But as a Black man in this country, I think it's a shame that every few years we get a change of name. Since those first ships arrived here from Africa that came across the sea, there were already Black men in this country who were free. And as for those who came over on those terrible boats, they were called nigger and slave and told what to do and how to behave. And then Master started tripping, doing his midnight tipping down to the slave shacks where he forced he and great-great-grandma to be together. And if great-great-grandpa protested, he got tarred and feathered. And at the same time, the Black men in the country who were free were mating with the tribes like their parents.
Y'all hear that? Y'all could go out, man. Smokey Robinson speaks against it. Who else? Morgan Freeman speaks against it. Morgan Freeman from Clarksdale, Mississippi, straight out of Choctaw Nation. That's right. Right? Look at this illustration right here, y'all. Even in Jesse Jackson's bio, his family distinguishes themselves part Cherokee, part African American. And they only use African American because their daddy made the word popular. We not Black either, because when you say you Black, I say this, and I say this fairly. If we want to put ourselves under the category of Black as a color, then we can align ourselves with the other colored people around the world. But I argue the case, how can I argue with all the other Blacks around the world when they can literally say, I'm Nigerian, I'm Burkina, I'm Zimbabwe, I'm Namibia, I'm Brazilian. Yeah, the Aborigines from down there in Australia, I'm Papua New Guinea. Yeah, I'm Black. They're darker than me. They can classify themselves as Black, but they have a nationality, a nation recognized at the UN. Now, I don't care what Miss Edelin says or Jesse Jackson say. You can't go to the UN and say I'm African American. There's no delegate at the UN. There's no nation of African American, or there's a nation of Africa, and there's a nation, and even in the nation of Africa, they got 54 countries. So Africa is just a continent with 54 countries. You say you're American. American has united to the states, but every state is different because a New Orleans person ain't the same as a St. Louis person, ain't the same as a Gullah Geechee person in South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's different. Just so different as a Choctaw, a Cherokee, Seminole, Chickasaw. You know what I'm saying? A different type of melanated person. So although you'll hear people like Godfrey saying they're proud to be Black Americans, they can always drop that and say, I'm Nigerian first. they can say I'm a Nigerian American and stop that and cut the Africa off altogether because they know Nigeria is represented in the UN, and so is America, right? But when you say black or African, there is no such as Africa being at the UN. There's no representation for African American. That's my point. This is how Jesse Jackson crushed our people, adding another layer, him thinking this layer was going to somehow help us. And then Elyon saying it's going to give us a cultural offense. There's no reparations for no African American, no Black American, no person that can't say. You got to be able to declare your tribe and your nationality of people. Let's move on. Next topic. So that's how our leaders have caused us to err, right? So I want y'all to remember that. That's something recent. We're talking from 1960s to now, right? Now let's move into our next topic that I want you to remember. Y'all know what this is called? What is this? A Holy Bible. Many of y'all are watching, and I hope y'all sitting with one of these collection of books in front of you. The Bible contains warnings and regulations. Oh, let me stop. Before I get into this, key points from that first segment. Jesse Jackson was yet Cherokee, but Jesse Jackson was yet African American. I want you to know that the whole world knows there's a distinction of different types of people here in America, right? Out of one speech, Hosea Witt, they're saying there was colored people in America, but what we're going to find out at the same time, there were slaves coming in on ships as indentured servants that were set free that became important people. There are Africans that came to America and they look just like the colored people that was already here. I want there to be a distinction. You could say they Black, but under Black, you got tribes, you got Narragansett, Seneca, Choctaw, you got all these under Black, and then over here under Black, you got Africans, you got Jamaicans, you got Puerto Ricans, you got Iroquois, you got people from the Caribs, you got people from South America being moved up through the Gulf into the Americas. So you got all these colored people that they're trying to just mix up so no one knows their identity. Okay, let's go back to the Bible. The Bible contains warnings and regulations for slave owners. So just in the Bible, it's talking about Israelites becoming slave owners, emphasizing humane treatment, forbidding harshness, forbidding kidnapping, and mandating release for Hebrew slaves after 6 years, and a severe punishment for those who strike slaves to death. Now, mind you, these Europeans came to America with a Bible, with Jesus saying, get down or lay down, worship Jesus, become Christian or die. But what they forgot is what was said in Torah in the Old Testament about treatment of slaves. So the part about slaves being released in the 7th year, they started out that way with indentured servants. But do y'all know it was a African American that started chattel slavery? What you saying, Raah? I'm saying it was an African American that did not want to free his slave, went to court, won the court case, made that slave a slave for life, and the Europeans used that court case to make all people of color slaves for life. Them, they children, and their children's children forever. Moving from indentured servitude to chattel slavery. Somebody that look like us, but we thinking it was white people that started it. White people didn't start chattel slavery. It is an actual court case. And the person that filed the court case was a melanated person. Now I'm asking you, was that person indigenous? Because at that time, when I bring it out to you, that time, that indigenous, that couldn't have been indigenous because indigenous people of color were, they were already put in like reserved areas. They wasn't walking free with top hats and doing all of that. They were trying to keep their tribal lifestyle together. When you saw a person of color walking around, most of them were freed slaves from somewhere. What's your point, Raah? Look at this. Leviticus chapter 25. Let's keep going. We're not all the same people. We got the same skin complexion, but you can look at somebody and be like, man, your people not from here. Just like people from Africa got a distinct look, people from South, Central, and North America of color, they got a distinct look. And if you do have African, any country, I don't care, name a tribe. If you got Congolese in you, you look like a Congolese. If you got Ghanaian in you, you look like somebody from Ghana. If you got Ethiopian in you, you know you Ethiopian because they all look alike. And what they don't look like in its indigenous American from Carolina, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, that's what they don't look like, right? Leviticus chapter 25, let's read this. Start at verse 42. For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Thou shalt not rule over them with rigor, but shalt fear thy Elohim. Both thy bondsmen and thy bondsmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be from the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondservants. This is the reason for supersessionism, saints. Because the true children of the Most High, they knew not to make slaves of their own people. The 12 tribes of Israel were not supposed to make slaves of themselves. If your tribesman became a servant of yours, they could only serve for a certain amount of time. And in that time, you were not supposed to deal with them with rigor, harshness. You weren't supposed to beat them. You had to take care of them, feed them. And after that, you were supposed to release them. Now, the Europeans come in, they start flipping through these pages, and they like, hey, we need to make our own God. We need to make our own religion and doctrine. But guess what? We need to make our own type of slavery. We need to become these people. Because these people get to have slaves, but they get to have their slaves of everybody else. So wait a minute. If we not people, the children of Jacob, we're not the sons of Israel, then we could be slaves. So we got to flip that. So not only can the children of Israel be slaves, but we can make everybody else our slaves. Are y'all not listening to me? That's why Christianity went around the world and made everybody else the heathen and the slave. You, your people, your family are slaves through Christianity, flip-flopping scripture. Y'all hear me? They literally flip-flop what scriptures say. The Most High didn't bring the Greek, the Caucasus, Anglican, Portuguese, Spanish. He didn't bring them slave masters out of Egypt. He didn't get a Torah and Tanakh to this people. So they had to take and make themselves their own religion so that they can now go and enslave the world and enslave people and say, God gave us the power to do it. God gave us the okay to put people in slaves. God gave us the power to buck break, feed people to alligators, burn them at the stake, hang them off trees. Jesus said it's okay. Because these same people that did all these horrible things went to church on Sunday. Let's keep going. Verse 45. Moreover, of the children of the stranger, everyone that wasn't part of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the 12 tribes that came out of Egypt, the children of the strangers that sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy. You buy the stranger. Of them shall you buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. So Israelites had a possession, but the possessions were the heathen and the stranger. But they also did not treat them inhumanely. They didn't treat them with harshness. They didn't kidnap people. You understand what I'm saying? They had rules and regulations about that, right? And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the other children of Israel, ye shall not rule over one over another with rigor. So if you don't know that you're a child of the Most High, you might just buy some slaves. You might just treat your servants with rigor. You might get in America and not know who you are and have a whole slave plantation with people that look like you. And you treating them worse than Candyland. You treating them worse than the worst plantation. Look at this. In Exodus chapter 21 and 6, 1 through 6, y'all see this illustration? This is why my grandmama didn't want me to get earrings. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go free. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons and daughters, the wife and the children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. So if you take on one of your brothers, because there are some times where Israelites screw up and they have to go into servitude. Well, if he comes with his own wife, he can leave with his own wife. But if the master gives him a wife and he has kids, the wife and the kids belong to the master, right? Now, if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, I love my wife, I love my children, I will not go free in the 7th year. Watch what happened, y'all. Then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door and unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. So when you put a hole in your ear, and we walking around with them hoops, like Michael Jordan made popular. He got the hoop rings. Everybody got 2 hoops in their earring. When you see, now they got the little gun and they shoot it in your ear. Boom. But back then, they used to take basically a nail. Look at that middle picture. That's a nail. This right here is like rebar or something. And it's probably sharp at the tip. Look at that hole. And they would get this hammer and put your ear up against the doorpost and bang that hole in your ear. And then I'm sure they would put some kind of hoop or a stick or something and leave it in your ear. And when people saw that, people would know that you gave up your freedom. You gave up your freedom to be a servant forever. Got to put the earrings down, y'all. Look at this house. This is a nice house. When you see a house look like that, guess what? Run. Unless you're on a tour And the only reason you'll be on a tour if you try to do a documentary. If I went to a house like that, it would be to research where my family was, to document it, camcorder, videoing it, like them streamers be doing. I'm live streaming from such and such plantation. This is where my great so and so. You hear what I'm saying? I'm documenting it for the. You would never catch me in here trying to even buy a place like that unless this is the place that imprisoned my people, and I'm buying it to put it back in the family. I want to own it, not to use it, but we taking back the power of what it held. Because most of my family members is probably buried somewhere around that grass. That's some pretty grass. Yeah, somewhere around there is some dead colored people under the ground. And they probably my kinfolk. Go to Jeremiah chapter 22. We got to remember, y'all. If you ain't remembering this, I don't know what you're going through life remembering when you have interactions with people, especially when you're looking on TV and you see Karen's interactions. Why is people acting like this? Why do our people act so ignorant on cop shows and stuff? Like, why is there still a population of our people that don't know no better? Because the leaders in those communities are just fleecing them for their Section 8 money, for their little money they getting at their jobs. They're not trying to teach them nothing. Jeremiah 22:13, it say, woe unto him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness. This is a beautiful house. This house was built out of righteousness? No. Hey, they got in their nice white dresses. He put on his top hat. He had his servants get the horse and buggy, and they went to wherever that chapel was, and they walked in there like great Christians, and they sang, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that shade. And then they went right back home, get that nigga, and they got that whip, and they beat, prodded, buck break, raped Sister Sarah, and did whatever they want right after coming from church. That's how they got that house. And his chambers by wrong. You know what they doing in their chambers? Y'all seen Uncle Tom's Cabin? They got little black kids. See, y'all worried about Epstein, but there was a lot of Epsteins back in the day. It's a lot of Epsteins right now that are doing things in chambers that you don't know about. A lot of wrong. That useth his neighbor's services without wages and giveth him not for his work. See, that ain't supposed to be us living like that. But all the bad behaviors we learn from some colonizer. I ain't just gonna blame it on the white person. It could be the Egyptian, it could be the Syrian, Babylonian, the Greek, the Roman. You take your pick. Whoever the colonizer is, that's who our people learn from. And the crazy thing is, a lot of these houses, what if these houses was built before the Europeans even came? They just kicked the people out and moved in. Lynched them, hung them, ate them, buried their bones on their own land. Go to Habakkuk 2. Our people don't remember. Our people ain't asking no questions. Our people don't care. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 12. Watch this. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and establisheth a city with iniquity. You got a town that already exists of colored people. You got a city that already exists with Choctaw, Cherokee, Cahokia Indian. You got these places that already exist up and down the Mississippi. The Spanish come, the French come, the English come. They see these places already exist, and they want to build their fort in their cities right where people already exist. How you think people got in the tents? Because they got kicked out their houses. And then when they show us Hollywood and they show us historical videos, they make it like these Europeans who lived in squalor and poverty just came over here and just started making immaculate houses that look like this. All up through Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. Now they just making all of these beautiful houses up and down the East Coast. Look at it. They just come to America and they know how to build with wood, siding and shingles, brickwork and mortar, chimneys. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10. We got to remember all of this. If we forget, they will literally do it again. They will literally reset education, reset everything again. And our children have to start all over again, trying to remember what happened while the colonizers or the politicians, even their own people that look like them, is telling us nothing happened, nothing went wrong, there's nothing to remember. Isaiah 10, verse 1 and 2. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. Here go these laws. Not law, statute, commandments, amendments, citations, executive orders, and that right grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey and that they may rob the fatherless. Man, what's in the news today? Oh, Epstein, what did they do? Oh, he's stealing kids. They sex trafficking. How long this been going on? Is it still going on? Is the government involved? Is the government covering it up? Where are our little babies getting snatched? Where they taking our babies? All them girls got disappeared from the DC, Maryland area. Never found. 30 plus little teenage girls. Where'd they go? Who took them? Nobody know nothing. All this CCTV, the big brother watching everybody and nobody know nothing. We got to remember, however this play out with Epstein and Diddy and all of them, okay, so what's the next phase? So these guys get caught, these guys go away, but who was the guys before these guys? Who's the guys that's going to get put in place afterwards? Okay, it ain't Epstein Island. It's going to be another island. It's going to be another state. It's going to be another person. It's going to be another rapper. It's going to be another actor. It's going to be another executive. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 41. Ecclesiastes 41 and 3. Let's go to our next topic. We got to remember. Ecclesiastes chapter 41, verse 3. Fear not the sentence of death. That ain't it. Wrong spot. Right verse. Wrong scripture. Boy, getting old. I know somebody had to get it. 41 and 13. Oh, it's chapter 30. It's 13. Let me fix that. Ecclesiastes 41 and 13. My apologies. Ecclesiastes 41 and 13. A good life hath but few days, but a good name endureth forever. What did Miss Edelman say to Jesse Jackson? We need to change the name. You know, nations of people were normally called by the founder of those people. I'll give you one example. Rome. Where did Rome come from? It came from the beginning with Romulus, right? So that is a whole nation of people. They're under Italy. The capital of Italy is Rome. The religious capital of the world is in the Vatican in Rome. Romulus. The name that you are called by will endure forever. So why do you think why are we going from, dang, I gotta go all the way back, what they were calling us. Went from Indian, Negro, colored, wait a minute, Indian, mulatto, Negro, colored, black, Afro-American, African-American. But that ain't us. We saying we African-American, ain't none of us been to Africa. But Godfrey and all of them can come over here, claim African-American, but they ain't got no American in them. None of their people come out of the antebellum South. Not one of them. So let's see what happened. Let's go to Psalms 83. So you name it, a good name and do it forever, right? Don't forget that. Psalms 83, verse 4. Psalms 83, verse 4, it reads, they have said, come, let us cut them off. They say, what? Let us cut them off. From what? Let us cut them off from being a nation. Your nation is your name. Jesse Jackson, when he got in his pseudo-political, when they trumped him up to be the president and representation of so-called African Americans, a name by which he made up, and it only started being publicized and used after his presidential run because they put money behind him to run that Democratic Party campaign. Listen, he never ran for president. Y'all, they talking about Jesse Jackson, but Dick Gregory actually ran for president. So Jesse Jackson comes and says, hey, let's change the nation and let's add Africa to give some kind of cultural relevancy as to say that everybody of color that's in America came from Africa. That's a lie. Now they'll be called by a different name. You don't have to give reparations, and you don't have to care about people who don't know where they come from. That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Now I'm gonna give you this two-part. Israel, through the Catholic Church and supersessionism, was replaced with the Catholic Church. The people of Israel are no longer the people. We're here in America, and we've been called by at least 6 different names on the census since the census was created in 1790. The colonizer has constantly changed and stripped our identity. But then we read here in scripture in the NIV, come, they say. Who is they? There's always a they. There's a group of they. There's a group of nations of people. Today we call them the UN and anybody up under the UN umbrella. The they. The group of they that don't want you to know you the them. The they say, let us destroy them. Who the them today that's being destroyed, like you read about in this Bible scripture? Who is the them that is being destroyed like them in Psalms 84. Because they say, let us destroy them as a nation so that Israel's name is remembered no more. So when Godfrey and the Africans and everyone that is African, UK, all the UK actors and all the people, bless them. Listen, they can trace their lineage back to Somalia, Uganda, wherever. They know where they people at. They can go back, and the people, once they become superstars, treat them like gods and kings. They have not been destroyed. Their name, their nation hasn't been stripped from them. They parents, when they immigrated into Greece and went into UK and went into Canada, their history has been preserved within them. They just came to America. Now they successful. I'm an African American. I'm black. They want to be the spokesman and the preachers for people whose literal name, nation, and culture has been destroyed from them. And they'll look at us because they're successful and say, well, what's the problem? What's the problem is you're successful. You have your nation. You have your culture. You know who you are. You know where your people come from. Yeah, you looking at me, who and my family members and friends whose land was stolen, whose identity was stolen, who built this country up, so that you get to come over here and call yourself African American and black, and just forget what my people went through here on this land. You get to come and reap the benefits for our hardships, and you would even have the audacity to classify yourself something we don't want, but you can classify yourself and you can go back and forth and you can interchange who you are and what you are. We don't have that. We're not afforded that same privilege. So what name is that you think was taken? Right? What name is that? What are we supposed to remember? What name is that was destroyed from our people? In the Bible, it says the nations came together and they don't want to remember that Israel existed at all. You don't think they repeated that? You don't think they did that again? You don't think they came and found powerful nations of people with gold and silver and majestic cities that bathed themselves in soap? And they came over here on raggedy ships with rags and didn't know how to feed themselves. So they had to go rob cemeteries, dig up bodies, and eat dead carcasses. You know, they still eat dead humans. I mean, they eat meat with bread in it. And they look at you when you cook it and say, why are you ruining that piece of meat? That's them telling you that they will eat you. How you gonna marry somebody that sit up and eat meat with blood oozing out of it? When your Elyon say the life is in the blood, and now they telling you people are running around drinking people's blood, eating blood to get the life force from people. What name don't we remember? Why are you so lazy and don't want to research your family and friends? Even if it comes back to what's it, a Confederate sheriff, a German slave master, Irish slave master, Spanish slave master, Choctaw Seminole, like, why don't you want to know who and where you come from? Oh, because Jesus said you could forget. That's not wise, people. That doesn't make us smart children of the Most High. How are you saying you serving the Most High in all spiritness and truth and sincerity, and you don't know who you are? You don't even know if you're a heathen. If you know you're a heathen, it makes sense to be a Christian saved by grace, because it's fake, and you're a heathen, and the scripture is for the children of Israel. It makes sense for you to go off and believe. You make up your own religion when you find out you're not a chosen seed of the Most High. It would make sense more so than you be a child of the Most High and you don't know what you believe because you don't know who you are. Why is the same thing? My point is, why is the same thing happening in the scripture happening to me and my people? And me and my people ain't that far from my wife's people, and they going through the same thing. Why is the same thing happening to the same people in the South? Why do we all got the same history? But it ain't the same history coming from overseas. But now the Hebrew Israelites, the Moors, the Kemetic, everybody want us to look to Africa. You looking at Africa and you ain't, but you here. Your blood is from here, but they got you looking at Africa. Where? Where in Africa? Why would they, if you're from Africa, why would they cut the information that ties you to Africa? But what you know is they cut your information here in the Americas. How your people got here. Where's the documentation? We looking at, me and my wife be looking at Find Your Roots, and we be looking at this stuff on YouTube. These people got money. These millionaires, and they can't get past 17. They can't get past the 1800s. So now we got a new Jesse Jackson. I was telling my wife, it's 2020s, and we got a new Jesse Jackson. 1988, Jesse Jackson was trying to change the name to confuse the people, to start a new word. Going from I'm black and I'm proud, now we African Americans, and now we got this fool saying we foundational black Americans. I spelled that all wrong, didn't I? What is that? Y'all know what a foundational black American is? Like we compound, right? Let's start from the right to left. American, you black. And then foundational is supposed to mean you the beginning of black in America. Where this country at, y'all? Where this flag at? I'm sure they can make up a flag, but are these people represented in the UN? Are these people even recognized in the United States? Who the heck is these people? Well, let's read about it. Foundation of Black America, FBA, is a lineage-based, listen that they did, a lineage-based term and social movement used to identify Black Americans who are direct descendants of, enslaved people in the U.S. Listen, y'all. They're not giving no money to people enslaved. And to be enslaved, they're going to say you have to come from Africa. So you come from Africa, you enslaved, that don't tie you to the Americas. So they just making up a term to tie you to slavery. The term was popularized and trademarked by filmmaker and activist. There go that word again. Simone Edelin. Jesse Jack. Anytime you hear activists, you need to beware. I want to be an activist. For what? To activate who to do what? What's the movement? Who the people? How you going to fund the movement? BLM was a movement. How that help our people? The only Black lives they cared about was LGBTQ and single mamas without daddies. But this dude, Tariq Nasheed, around 2020, he emphasized a distinct ethnic identity. What ethnic identity? Foundation of Black America. What? America is a place. Black is a color. Where is the ethnicity? At least we know with Gottingen School that when they created the racial ethnicities based on color, We know that this was a scientific way of separating the people. This Negro ain't even a scientist. He might not have even finished high school or college. He gonna establish an ethnic identity. Some community members suggest that a foundational status should be verifiable through census records. Well, if you go through census records, you can find out who your people were and lead to a tribe. You find that last name and you go look at that on the Dawes rolls, the Freedman rolls, and all the other rolls you don't know about. You go find out what rolls your family had to sign on. You might find what tribe you from. Then what's the point of being a foundational Black American if I'm Choctaw? Huh? If I could tell you exactly what tribe where my people come from. Why I need to be foundational Black, why I need to be African American, why I need to be African American, why I need to be colored. Hey, my people is from the Choctaw Nation, from the boot of Louisiana and Mississippi. On my daddy's side, mama's side, they all from the same area. Okay, who was the tribes before the European came? My people is still there. Okay. So he's saying you're going to go to 18. He's trying to pinpoint a census. If you can verify your people on this 1850 census, then you foundational Black America. The movement frequently focused on demanding reparations. Oh, so they just want money for enslaved people. And specific government protection for the specific group, similar to, oh, here go another one, ADOS. So what's the difference between ADOS and FBA? FBA said, identify Black Americans who directly descendants from enslaved people in the United States. ADOS, in the name, it says American descendants of slavery. This that nigga. Oh, no. Do not he look like that same picture of Jesse Burns? He look a little sassy though. Y'all tell me, but is he pucking his lips? It look like he pucking his lips to me. Is he supposed to look smart? It look a little zestified. I don't know. I question the whole picture. But he another puppet over the last 20 years that the alphabets have used to create documentaries to confuse the people. Tariq Nasheed is an American film producer and internet personality. He is best known for his Hidden Colors film series, as well as his commentary and promotion of conspiracy theories on social media. He coined the English language term foundational Black American. He founded it. He created it in January 2019 to describe descendants of, look, Africans enslaved in the United States. Why did he just say AFBA? Africans ain't foundational to America. Africans is from Africa. It was millions of indigenous colored people here. It's still millions of indigenous people in the Southeast. He in California talking about what's going on in the Southeast. You ain't in California talking about slavery that's in the antebellum South. Nasheed is known for his use of the term bed wench and related term Negro bed wench mentality. He uses the term to refer to Black women who date interracially. He revived and popularized use of this term, which historically was used to disparage Black women who were raped by their masters during slavery. So women who were raped by their master and had little mulatto kids were called bed wenches. He's using the word Negro bed wench or bed wench today for women who voluntarily have mulatto kids with the colonizer. But these is his series. He put a lot of information together. You know, the devil come and he drop a lot of true information to hook you, to take you and pipe you on down where you want to go. But I guarantee you, this series is instrumental in waking up a lot of people of color over the last 20 years. What did he do with it? He just went for reparations for Africans enslaved in America. You remember, Africans was brought to America. A lot of them were freed and got their freedom. And a lot of them had babies with white people, had babies with other colored tribes people that was already here. That's why you got to know your history, who you come from. Lest you put in your history, you got a Confederate sheriff and an Irish plantation owner in your lineage. I don't even know why he would put that there. So lineage requirements for the FBA. An individual is considered FBA if they can trace their bloodline back to American system of chattel slavery, back to the 1850 census, I think it said. That's the only way you can be foundational Black American. The term specifically excludes Black immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean. That's why I'm saying you can't say you Black. Because even the FBA is saying, yeah, you Black, but you're not Black American. So they're using all these terms to confuse people. But when a cop see a Caribbean, he a nigga, he Black. When they see a Haitian, he Black. They see somebody from Ecuador or from Colombia or my people from Panama that look just like us, they consider Black, but they're Panamanian. But they can't be FBA because they don't go back to chattel slavery. Okay, but what does chattel slavery got to do with being indigenous to the land? So FBA will have you, and ADOS and all of them Kemetic people, they all trying to go back to Africa, right? As well as, okay, it goes back to say the term FBA specifically excludes Black immigrants. That's why I'm saying Black is like the top. And under Black, you got ADOS, FBOA, Hebrew Israelites. You got all these, because Hebrew Israelites, you got to come from, you got to come on the ships back from West. Everybody has got their own little migration from Africa. Everybody is pushing you back to Africa, even the Hebrew Israelites. But it was less than 300,000 people that came on ships to North America. 300,000 people don't populate the southeast of America still to this day. It just ain't. We breed fast, but we don't breed like rabbits and cockroaches. Even though we breed faster than other people, you ain't having that many babies. So you can't be African or Caribbean as well as their descendants, unless they also have at least one parent from a non-immigrant U.S. enslaved background. So you can't be FBA if at least one of your parents didn't come from chattel slavery. One of your descendants have to be related to somebody on 1850 census, chattel slavery. I don't know. Distinction from African American. Watch this. This is the FBA now. This is Tariq Nasheed. This is Sweet Lips. They say proponents often reject the label African American, arguing it is too broad and sanitizes history by grouping descendants of U.S. slavery with recent immigrants who did not share the same 400-year history of systematic oppression in America. I agree with that. I agree with that as an argument against African American. But they're using that argument against FBA, being an FBA. But they made slaves out of the Indians more so than the Africans and the Caribbeans. So look, these are the people I want you to be leery of. I want you to look at this list of people that sweet lips. Look at this picture now. Look at this picture now. Let me make that big. Let me show y'all. Look at sweet lips. This picture is worse than the other picture. Is he not pucking his lips? Yeah, my that's he know what I'm talking about. Man, the boy is pucking his lips. How you follow this? This dude is gonna give us reparations. This is Jesse Jackson 2.0. You know his name ain't Tariq Nasheed. Yeah, this boy named Antonio Walker or something. You know, Tariq Nasheed. But look at the bottom list of people. These is people on YouTube you be weary of. Rizza Islam. Boyce Watkins. Professor James Smalls. Dr. Ma'at. Dr. Kama Kamin. Marcel Dixon. Connie Collins. Tazel Figure. Watch all these Negroes. All these Negroes is trying to get a payday. None of them believe the same thing. None of them is FBA. FBI, I said FBI. Don't trust none of these Negroes on this flyer. These the Negroes are supposed to get the United States government to move. Don't none of these people claim indigenous ancestry to America. Whatever Farrakhan teach in the Nation of Islam, that's Rizza Islam. It don't matter all the political and all the other stuff he's talking about. His foundation is the Nation of Islam, so it comes down to whatever they believe and profess, that's what he owns. He just using them as a platform to make himself another black, because you remember, they still got to have these black puppets in high regard and high following, right? So this is them collaborating together. This is like the We Are the World song. You get all these top singers together, and everybody's like, oh, look at this song. You got Michael and all these great singers together, white, black, and everybody together. That's these Negroes coming together for reparations for who? If we from Africa, how are we going to get reparations? Why would they give Africans enslaved in America reparations? We got to remember what happened. So y'all know, this is going on right now. They pushing ADOS and FBA right now. They want you to stop calling yourself African American and say you ADOS or FBA. And Jesse Jackson was like, stop calling yourself African American, call yourself black. I want that movement just like Martin had with the black Americans. I want to do that again with African American. But what was they calling the people before black Americans? We're going to get to it. Y'all know who this dude is? Huh? My wife sound like she been sneaking in my lessons. Is this an African American, a black man, a white man? What is this man? What is he? What do he look like to you guys? In the comments. What do he look like? Huh? I didn't even hide like that. What race and ethnicity does this man look like he is? No, y'all can see it. It's blown up. No guesses? His name is Walter Francis White. His last name is White. Born July 1st, 1893. He passed in 1955. He was an American civil rights, what? What's the word you got to watch out for? Activist, who led the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. See, my wife, she was getting groomed up, man. She knew him right off the top. She seen him, and first thing she said was NAACP. For a quarter of a century, from 1929 until 1955, he directed a broad program of legal challenges to racial segregation and disenfranchisement. The ethnicity of Walter F. White, the historical civil rights leader, is Black American. He darn near brighter than his white shirt. He Black American. This is white. He ain't white passing. This is white. In our understanding today, he look white. Despite his fair skin, this is not fair skin, boy. This is and blue eyes, allowing him to pass as white. He identified as Black and was a descendant of both Black enslaved people and white plantation owners. Ain't that what Jesse Jackson said? He is famous for investigating lynchings in the South, fighting for federal anti-lynching legislation, and leading organizations' legal battle against segregation. We want to remember Walter Francis White. Now that y'all seen his name, y'all like, I heard that name before. Walter Francis White is white. I mean, Walter Francis White passes as white, but he was a leader for the advancement of colored people. You gotta know who you are, where you come from, because you'll look at this man and be like, "Oh, Mr. Whitey, you blah 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 blah." You following Jesse Jackson? You following Nasheed? These crooks, these people just getting your money, buy their products, and then the guy that look white, he actually out here fighting lynching. Fighting anti-lynching, he pushing anti-lynching legislation and leading the battle against segregation. If we don't know and remember, look at that. And they don't want you to know that slave masters you just got to use your imagination. What happened to his mama? Enslaved people and white plantation owners. All right. So is African American the name of our people? No. At this point, second part of our series, remember, is African American the name we want to fall on the sword with? No. Hey, check this out. So the definition of African: native or inhabitant of Africa. From Latin, Africanus, used of white residents of Africa in 1815. Put the timeline, put 1815, white people in North Africa was called African. That whole continent was called Ethiopia. North of the Sahara Desert, that was called Africa. And after the Romans had conquered it, that's the white people had settled in North Africa. Listen what I'm saying. In 1815, North Africa, north of the Sahara, was called, white people were called Africans. Used of black people. Now African was associated with black people in the U.S. from the 18th century, when it meant one brought from Africa, and sometimes was contrast to native-born Negroes. It says in 1722 as of or pertaining to Black Americans. So African is something given to Black Americans. It's just a name stuck on Black Americans, who are also called Negro. Now watch this. The word American pertains to America. Africa was originally pertaining to white people in North Africa. And then, what did it say? In 1560, it pertained to Africa or Africans. And then from 1722, it pertained to Black Americans. So Africa, up until 1722, was people from Africa. Then it switched to mean Black Americans. The word America pertains to pertains to America, American pertains to America, originally applied to Aboriginals. But now, Aboriginals or copper-colored races found by the European whites, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. White people was called African in North Africa. Then they put the name on Black Americans and they called themselves the true Americans. They took us over there and they came over here by name on paper, and they started writing documents that way. But look at the emblems that the first Americans drew. On the left is the emblem or the symbol of Africa. On the right is an emblem or symbol of an American. Two females. One on the left is of darker skin, and the one on the right is copper colored skin. What I want y'all to understand is the Aboriginals of America would be called Black people today, and the Aboriginals of Africa would be called Black people today. It's okay for Godfrey to be standing next to me and say he's Black and he's American because he was born in America. He's of Nigerian descent. I'm born in America. I'm of American descent, but everyone's calling us Black because of our skin tone. But both of these women and both of these images is called Black today. Both of these women in America would be called Black Americans today. But one is an African and one is an American. One originally, or is said from, or pertains to be from Africa. One pertains to be from America. So where do we get those Mongolian looking people that look like they from Alaska and Asia? The Siberian looking people that say they Americans. Where they come from? Because the whites didn't draw no picture of an American. You don't see no emblem. Listen, you got an emblem of America looking like me and you, and then when they redrew it, it was a white woman. It wasn't no Asian woman. It wasn't no half Mongolian, Alaskan looking woman. The white people came over here and said they the Americans. And they said these Black people, they Africans. We want to send them back to where they come from. Look at this timeline I put together for y'all. We're going to be concluding shortly. But y'all remember I asked y'all, like, who are we and what? Was that our name? I'm going to show you how the world got rid of us. You remember FBA said you got to go to chattel slavery in 1850. Look at this. Look at the paper genocide. This is how you make a name no more. In 1790, the very first census, the very first compilation of numbers in America, the first U.S. census, copper-colored Americans were listed as free people or Indian. So why can't we go around saying, I'm free or I'm Indian? But who are the free and Indian people? Copper-colored. Y'all see the red arrow. The next, since 1828, Webster Dictionary defines American as a native of American originally applied to copper-colored people. We just read that, right? We just read this right here of American. That came out of the 1828 Webster's Dictionary. So by 1830, look, They passed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, forcing indigenous people off their lands. From Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, all the tribal people south and east of the Appalachian Mountains was removed from their lands. 1850, this is what the FBA talking about, right? What happened in 1850 to 1830? That's 30 years. The census records reclassify Native free people or Indians or Native Americans as mulatto or colored. We went from free people to Indian to mulatto and colored people on census record. This is why you don't know, because it's on paper. And you got to go back and get them census records and follow your family members to see what your mama and your grandma and your great-grandma and your great-grandpa, what was they called on their birth certificates on the census records. In 1887, the Dawes Act allows white settlers to pay for indigenous status, the $5 rule. So now you remove the Black Americans off of their land. They sent them to the Indian Territory, which was North Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. They started sending them to Indian Territory. Now the land is vacated. Now white people are putting themselves on the Dawes rolls as Indians. They didn't only come from Africa and change whatever the people was there, took African, come over here, called the indigenous people Africans, and now they're the Americans. White people didn't just come here and be Americans. They came here and became Indians. You know how they went to Australia and now you don't see no indigenous Australia. You know, they ran them all off in the Papua New Guinea Islands, and it's nothing but they're white people in Australia now. They got rid of all the Aboriginals. Now they're the true Australians, right? 1893 to 1914, Dawes Rolls complete the reclassification of many indigenous people as Negro. Hey, if everybody dropped off, they need to get back on this slide. I don't know what the Hebrew Israelites are talking about. I don't know anymore about the Kemetic people talking about. I don't know what Nasheed, I don't know none of what they're talking about right now. Right now, it looks like Dane Calloway is the biggest genius ever. He's opened the biggest door of who we are than anybody. In 1983 to 1914, this is right when all those Negroes in New York started opening up these Moorish Hebrew schools, and we started seeing the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, who was the teacher of Raah Muhammad, who started the Nation. All of these movements of commandment keepers, all this crap come out of New York after the indigenous people was removed out of the South. They kick the indigenous colored people off their land. It's not only census reclassification, but now on the Dawes roll, they start putting these white people on the Dawes roll, and now the colored people are now called Negro. How many of you could chase your mom, your grandparents who was born in the 1800s, 1914 and back? How many of y'all can go back to your grandma's family? Where your census records of your grandma, your mama's side, your daddy's side, go back and see what they had on their classification. A lot of them gonna say mulatto, and a lot of, see, they're not gonna let you, you know what, they burned all these 1790, 18, all of that stuff is burnt. The furthest you can go back, I want to say, is like 1850. That's why Nasheed is saying it's hard to go back before 1850s. So see, all the damage after they burned the records, they did all this reclassification. So what am I saying? Between 1893 and 1914, all your family members born, they got the N on their census records. Slack you. Let's keep going. Now, by the 1924, they passed the Racial Integrity Act in Virginia, forcing all the Indian tribes there, the Narragansett, the Wampanoag, all those East Coast tribes, now they had to be reclassified as Negro. So they reclassify in the East Coast, and they reclassify everything from Florida to Texas. all Chickasaw, Choctaw, all of them. All up and down in Mississippi, the Natchez, all the way up to Ohio. They reclassified everybody as Negro. Listen, so between 1893 and 1924, all indigenous people of color was all Negro. In the 1930s, the U.S. Census removes Indian as a racial category, replacing it with Negro. So Negroes are Indians. I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm just looking at the comments. Ain't nobody got nothing to say, y'all. Negro, you the Indian. I'm showing you right here. By U.S. Census, by paper genocide, you became Negro and not Indian. And that's why your family said there was Negro in your family, because it's true. Indian in your family. And that's why when I was growing up, I don't know where the nursery rhyme came from. I don't know if my big sisters, I used to hear them singing, and they used to say, my dad used to say, if anybody call you a nigga, you say, I'm not a nigga, I'm a Negro. If when I become a nigga, I'll let you know. Who heard that before? Who heard that before? With our big cousins, where did that saying come from? Where people of color like me and you did not want to be called a nigger, but it's better to be called a Negro. That's like breadcrumbs being left, because when you go to the census records and you see that N and you hover over it with your mouse and it say Negro, you know it's telling you the indigenous people of this land. You like, I always knew it was something about my family. Hey, it's time for you. If you got great aunties and great uncles still alive in their 80s and 90s, and they can still hold a conversation and tell you about the past, you need to get your iPhone and your stand and your camcorder and go over there and buy a major dinner, act like it's a feast, and sit down and feed them and ask questions, real questions. Grandpa, grandma, uncle, I know about the Integrity Act. I know about Jim Crow. They passed all these laws. That's when Jim Crow came to make people shut up. You couldn't claim to be Choctaw. You couldn't claim to be Chickasaw. You couldn't claim to be your tribe, or they would kill you. You had to be Negro or nothing. So now that they made everybody a Negro, what happens next? 1960s, now we fight for civil rights movement, promotes black identity over indigenous roots. Man, I'm watching Dane Calloway, and he pull up these pictures where they marching in the civil rights, and they got all of these Indian and indigenous banners. They marching, holding up signs and saying rights for the Indian, rights for the indigenous, and the people look like your grandpa and your grandma. They look like us. They don't look like the Mongolians, and they don't look part Spanish. No, they got afros, and they look like me and you marching in the civil rights movement. So that's what Martin Luther King did. He took us from marching for rights for the indigenous who had just been called Negro. Now he got them fighting to be black. And what they double down with it, they tell James Brown to come out with this song. Now everybody, hey, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. It's hell. They took us right. If they wanted reparations, our leaders have failed us and pied-pipered us right away from our identity. Just imagine if our people was keeping track of who they were back in the 60s. Imagine who in your family was alive in the 60s that was born in the 1800s, and their grandparents who were still alive, and how much information, even though, you can't say this out loud. I'm going to tell you something that we can't put in writing. You can't record it. It got to be oral, passed down. And you can't tell this to all the family members, but you got to tell it to the ones that start inquiring through word of mouth. This was what Michael King was up to. Say you black, not indigenous. I'm Choctaw. You ain't gonna get Morgan Freeman up and say he Black American, African American, or nothing. You won't even get Raven Simone to say I'm African American or I'm Black American, I'm colored. They people know who they are. You can't get Chris Brown to say he African American or Black American. Chris Brown know who he is. You can't get Waka Flocka know who he is. ODB, you're not gonna get people. You're not gonna tell Kyrie Irving he know he Sioux. He know exactly what tribe under the Sioux Nation. These people look like, I just gave you 3 to 4 different people that know who they are. I'm giving you how it happened. So they call us, they move us from Black to indigenous. I mean, from indigenous to Black. Then 28 years later, here comes Jesse Burns, aka Jesse Jackson, in 1988. And he popularizes African American, disconnecting Black Americans from their land. Because as soon as you say you African, you no longer American. And the original Americans are copper-colored people who were replaced by the Europeans by definition. The 1828 definition of American is paper genocide. So they put it in a dictionary. Then they came and changed the census records. Now our leaders are pumping the same lie, even taking us further from the land. How do you give 40 acres and mule to an African American? I'm not giving 40 acres in America to no African. It ain't gonna happen. All right. In 2010, the Census Bureau stops allowing Negro as an option because Negro leads you to Indian. I mean, Negro leads you back to Indian. Yeah, you're right, babe. And that's why they took Negro off the same way they took Indian off, right? Where they say they stopped putting Indian? What year was that? Oh, yeah. Census records reclassify. Now, one of them say they stopped using the word Indian. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fortunate. Okay, 1930, they removed Indian and started using Negro, right? And then in 2010, they removed Negro as an option. Y'all following me? So in 1930, they removed Negro as an option. I mean, yeah, Indian as an option because Indian are tied to Negro. Then in 2010, they removed Negro because Negro are tied to Black, Black are tied to Negro, and Negro are tied to Indian. We're just going down the hole, right? So in 2012, AI and digital algorithms rewrite indigenous history, promoting African diaspora narratives. So now we, the Africans in the diaspora. Starting in 2020, right when FBA started, right? FBA started in 2020, AI, which you use AI and Gemini and all of that through Google and everything. Now we people are the Africans of the diaspora. So if you can't get you and your kids of understanding to at least know this right here, if you ain't took a picture, if you ain't took a clip and a snapshot of this picture, if you ain't talking to your white friends and arguing the case or talking to your family members and friends, we ain't African just because you wore a dashiki in the 90s. Just because you pushing the African Bambaataa and you down with the 5%ers and you a Hebrew and you following all this and all that. Listen, all of that crap is it's part of the reclassification and brainwashing. They using the thing, they using organizations, they using Hebrew Israelite groups, they using Moorish movements, they using Kemetic movements, they using the Nation of Islam, they using everybody to forget, to help the masses forget. Forget what, Raah? Forget who they are. In 2024, the census may remove Black as a racial category, further erasing copper color, because now they need to remove color as an option. Because the original people that the Europeans found were copper-colored people. Why were they called? So what were they called before free people of color, or Indian? So what do you think people were called before 1790? The white people in the census called them free people or Indian. Not what they was calling themselves, what the people called them. American just represents a place. Before Indian or free people was the Moor. And before Moor, it was a tribal name. I got to prove this stuff out to y'all. Because the 1790, just because the 1790 was the first time they did the census, that don't mean, to my wife's point, they weren't calling themselves something. But the first white man came to the land in 1560? Yeah, the first explorers, so-called explorers, colonizers, came in the 1500s. So this, I'm talking about in 1790, as they first started to call all of these people, all of us, one thing, they called us all free people of color. See, that's where they leave off. Free people of color are also the Indian, right? And before free people of color or Indian, what were the people called? And there's two types of Moors. There's these religious guys running around these hats, M-O-O-R, and then it's the M-U-U-R, the ones we see with the feathers in their head. Here's my proof. Here's my proof that before free people of color or free people, they was called Moors by the European. They was being compared to the Moors of North Africa. They was being called Moors after the Moors of North Africa, who were colored people. Here's my proof. Who was the first president of the United States? The first in the history of the white people, who was the first president? All right. Here's his quote. This is him right here. I'm going to make this bigger for y'all. George Washington, First Continental Congress of 1774. So when was the first census? 1790. Look, 1790. Watch, y'all. We're going back to Psalms 83, y'all. Just bear with me. I'm going to end this part 2. Just stay with me. Stay with me. First census is 1790. First president, George Washington of the First Continental Congress. They remember what was that scripture we read about not times and changing laws, but they made their amendments and their different agreements. Watch what this say. It's called the Moorish Civic and Law. It was reported that George Washington summarized the raging debate on how to perpetuate slavery of the Moors. Unlawfully tagged black people. Wait a minute. Who was called black people? The Negro. The Negro was the Indian. The Indian was the colored or mulatto. And they were the Americans. Right? So George Washington in 1774, he tried to perpetuate slavery of the Moors, and unlawful tag, he wanted to call them black people. In 1774, at the First Continental Congress here in Philadelphia. So the real capital of the U.S. of America was in Philadelphia. And he states, if we would agree to take the fezzes and turbans off the Moors' heads and remove the sandals from their feet and enforce severe punishments, and to also swear a death oath between ourselves to religiously and faithfully not to allow anyone to teach the Moorish children who they really were or who their forefathers were, and only allow the Moorish children to be taught that they were truly Negroes, black people, colored folks. 200 years from 1774, from today, the Moorish people would not know their nationality, nor the national name of their forefathers. Also, they would not allow or not know from which land or ancestors that they are descended from. Same people, copper colored people, free people of color, the true American, mulatto, negro, black. Forget that African American, Jesse Jackson fool. Forget black. These people of color that he's talking about, the first president of the United States, he's talking about us. So what if under the Moorish nation, you had the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and before that, you had the Potawatomi nations, you had the Iroquois, you had the Iroquois Confederacy. What if these people were turned into slaves? Is not your first president saying he want to make these colored people slaves? And by 1974, the people ain't going to know their nationality, and they're not going to know what land their ancestors descended from. George Washington said that. So what's a Moor? A Moor is either a tract of land, a marsh, or as a noun, Moor is dark or obscure. A native of the northeast coast of Africa, called by the Romans from the color of the people. Moor just means a dark complected person. Mauritania, the same country, is now called Morocco, Tunisia, Algiers. So Mauritania, there was a people there called by the Romans Moor. So the Moor with the fez is the same as the Moors with the feathers. Moor as a noun. North Africa. You mean Africa where the white people came from? Because you remember the Greeks conquered Africa. The Romans conquered Africa. They beat Hannibal Barca. So North Africa Berber, one of the race dwelling in Barbary, 14th century, from Old French Moor, from medieval Latin Moris, from Latin Moros, inhabitant of Mauritania, Roman Northwest Africa, a region now corresponding to the northern Algeria and Morocco, from Greek Moros, pertaining to a purpose, perhaps Slovakia, a native name, or else cognate with Moros, meaning black. But this adjective appears in late Greek and may as well be from the people's name. Also applied to the Arabic conquerors of Spain, being a dark people in relation to Europeans. Their name in Middle Ages was a synonym for Negro. Later, 16th, 17th century, being the name of the nearest Muslims to Western Europe. It was used indiscriminately of Muslims, Persians, Arabs, but specifically those in India. Huh. They don't know what a Moor is. Let's finish up. Who is this young lady? Yeah, Albert Pike. Yeah, I remember. So this young lady, as we conclude, this is Bridget Biddy Mason. I want you to remember her because I want you to remember the timelines of the paper genocide, changing the name of the people of America. Biddy Mason, born 1818, is an American hero. Born enslaved, Mason became one of the first prominent citizens and landowners in Los Angeles in the 1850s. Look, 1850s, y'all. And 1860s. She also founded the first African Methodist Episcopal Church in Los Angeles in 1872. But later used her fortune to invest in her community and provide relief to poor Californians of all races and religions. By the end of her life, Biddy Mason had amassed a fortune equivalent to $7.5 million, making her one of the wealthiest women in the history of Los Angeles. She died of old age in January 15, 1891, survived in part by her children and great-grandchildren. What year? The Negroes weren't even free in 1850. I'm confused with this slavery story. Slavery was abolished in 1850, but how did she get out of slavery? 7.5 million. First American female real estate agent. Y'all sisters gotta remember the name. I'm dropping a lot of y'all on to remember, but y'all should be taking notes. Can't nobody even tell y'all before Jim Crow even happened, man, we had millionaires. Before Black Wall Street, it was Biddy Mason. She a millionaire at the same time as Sarah Rector in Oklahoma. We got a millionaire in California, and we got a multi-millionaire with oil in Oklahoma. Let's just stop right there. Let's start part 2 right there. Let's stop it. It's been good. A lot of information, a lot of glitching and deprogramming. I pray if it was information you heard before, it was a good refresher. If you never heard it before, I pray it brought edification to your life, to your walk towards the truth. I ask for your prayers, for my health, for my family. Keep us in your prayers. I just thank everybody that continue to support the Highest Way Ministry, support the information that we bring out. I pray it's helping your family grow. Y'all keep supporting us. The Most High say the same. We'll see you on the next Shabbat. I believe this is the 8th day of the 12th month. We need to start getting prepared for Passover and unleavened bread, getting your houses clear, getting your minds right, getting your spirits right. But if Most High say the same, we will see you on the 15th of the month with part 3. Remember. And with that being said, Y'all continue to have a blessed Shabbat. May the Most High bless you and keep you. Shalom.